Okay, so next topic, this is from Bannon. Do you think that Prim's death was necessary, or is it just to make the choice easier for Katniss? So I guess the question is kind of twofold. Do we think her death was necessary? And then, what kind of a role did her death play? Did it need to happen in order for her to be able to make the choice that she did regarding, I guess, killing Coin is what they're referring to. Who wants to jump in on this one?
I can say something. I don't necessarily think that it was necessary for Katniss's storyline. Like, I think that she would have done what she did. That was not correct grammar. Anyway, but I do think that it was necessary for Susanna Collins and the furthering of the story to show that, people die for no reason. Death has no, there's no reasoning behind it, and it's just horrible, and it can happen at any time, and there's usually just no point. So I think that it was necessary for the book, but not necessary for Katniss's storyline.
I think that's a very good way to look at it. Any other thoughts?
Well, I feel like the problem with asking is it necessary is you're already looking at it not as an event that resulted from the plot, but as a plot device that was used to move the plot forward. And I'm afraid that's what most people look at Prim's death as. Like, it happened so Katniss could make a decision, not that it happened. Like, everyone's looking at it as if it was used for a reason as opposed that it was just a natural occurrence, because no one really felt that it was in the natural occurrence of events. Like, afterwards, it's like, yes, people die, but I actually almost agree with that it was more of a plot device to show something than something that happened to a character.
Any other thoughts, Adam?
I was not happy about it at the time, and ever since we got involved with this fandom, a lot of things that maybe bothered me at first glance, I got over because I started to appreciate the series so much. So I haven't really thought about it as much as you would probably think I have. I think on purpose, because I just didn't really like who wants to think about that. It's a pretty distressing event. But I still maintain that it didn't have to happen. And maybe I'm in the minority now of people who say this, but I would have been perfectly fine with everything happening just the way it did without that added tragedy, because it just almost seemed like overkill to me of pain and suffering. But then maybe I say that now because I'm upset and bitter that it happened, and not because it was bad writing. So who am I to say? I don't know. I mean, I don't think it was necessary, but if Suzanne Collins thought it was necessary and it was part of her exposition, then who are we really to challenge that? She obviously had that planned all along. I guess from Katniss's perspective, it does sort of toughen the burden that she faced from beginning to end, and for her final resolution.
Any other thoughts on this? I don't necessarily think it was necessary, but I like that it's in there. As other people have mentioned, I think it's just another way of illustrating just how horrible and unforgiving war is. And I also think that looking at it from like a writing perspective, from a literary perspective, I think I like ending the series in a way with her death when the series, opens with Katniss sort of preventing her death, basically. And I don't want to. I don't like it. I don't like that she died, but I think it's kind of poignant that throughout the entire series, Katniss has kind of been fighting for Prim. That's sort of been what has kept her going. And, she loses Prim, but she still finds a way to keep going. And I think that's kind of important to think about. I don't know if anyone else feels the same. Did that make sense, Adam, at all?
It did. It made a lot of sense. I think also we haven't talked about Mockingjay nearly as much as the other books because, let's face it, most of our coverage leading up to and then after The Hunger Games was about the first movie, and then we've been so geared in on Catching Fire. And the only thing we've really talked about with Mockingjay, with a few exceptions when we've done, grab bag episodes, have been casting decisions, shooting locations, that sort of thing. I think it'll be really interesting when we get into the Mockingjay films, and the fact that they are being split into two. I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about these philosophical conundrums, particularly if the movie decides to expand upon that the way the first film did and show things from the capital perspective and give us more angles and more points of view to shape our opinions. So I'm glad we got to discuss this because I really feel like, amazingly, we haven't talked about it that much on this show.